Greeny here from Kombat Kingz, and I got a very special guest with us this afternoon, Will from Casuals Corner MMA. How are you doing, Will? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Just had a quick gym session before we jumped on the call. Just doing some work this morning, a couple of iced coffees in me, protein shake on hand, and ready to chat some UFC. So yeah, mate, I'm good.
Big UFC card ahead, and we can see that you've been working out. You know what I'm saying? I said this earlier, but the muscles are there, man. You're looking healthy, looking fit right now. How's the training going over in Thailand?
You know what it is? I'm gonna have to be transparent. Because I'm in Thailand and every now and again I put up some sort of Muay Thai footage, there is this image, I think, that people have. I'm grinding every single day training. In truth, that has not been the case whatsoever. I've literally not been training.
UFC 310.
Yeah. So many people ask me, they say, are you going to turn pro? And I say, I've honestly just had about 4 1-to-1s and I'm not that good. So I think we'll probably leave that for a little while. But yeah, not much training in regards to Muay Thai. Just been, in all honesty, mate, even though I've been in Bangkok for a while now and very glamorous when it's online. But the truth of it is I've just been at the desk every day. I've just been grinding every single day at the desk, long shifts in the sort of build up to a couple of projects I've got coming up, UFC Manchester, I'm sure we can get stuck into a little bit as well. Yeah. But other than that, just setting aside 10 minutes a day just to go to the gym, which is literally just around the corner, getting a quick lift in and then getting back to the office. But like what I said, it's just a very strategically placed light. So if you catch the good shadows, then you can sort of add a little aesthetic to the physique. So yeah, apart from that, not a lot of training.
I have to ask you about that light because I need something to help out myself. Do you know what I'm saying? If that's all it is.
You know what it is now? It's a case of I've been through all the phases of gym from when I was younger. Yeah. Being obsessed with it, going twice a day, learning about all the nutrition, learning about all the best workouts, all these different things. And now, to be perfectly honest, it's probably the same with you. It just gets lower and lower on your criteria of priorities, right? And it just keeps dropping down the list. So I've just got it in a place now where I can get a little 10 minutes in each day, 10, 15 minutes, no more, no less. Make sure I just get my protein in and I'm happy, you know? So if I can do that, I'm sweet. Nothing too crazy.
That's probably the best way to do it. All right, cool. Let's get into the card that's on the weekend. So we got UFC 303. Well, it was supposed to be McGregor versus Chandler, but the stepping king, as I've been calling him lately, Alex Pereira strikes again. So we're going to have Alex Pereira and Yuri Prochazka. What do you make of that fight? Because I think, obviously, it's the second time they fought. First one, obviously, went to Alex in devastating fashion, although some people argue that the stoppage was a bit premature. How do you think this one goes down?
I don't know if it's going to look much different to the first one. And when I say that, I'm still open to the idea that Yuri can get the stoppage as well. I don't think it's nailed on that Alex is going to win. I think if you lock these two in a cage 10 times out of 10, I think you get 10 quite different answers. I think more times than not, Alex wins. Just because when you look at the matchup stylistically, just the very simple narrative of it is, you know, you're going to get a more consistent level of kickboxing performance out of Alex. You sort of know what you're going to get roughly with him. Yeah. A lot more sporadic when it comes to Yuri, just because of the erratic nature of his style, just because of the slight holes in his defense, which he can definitely make work for him. But I think just from a betting perspective and from a consistency perspective, probably just going to side to Alex. But we can get into the X's and O's of this matchup because I think there's a reason why people are as excited, if not more excited, than the Conor Chandler fight. Because you look at these two characters, extremely charismatic. You look at their fight styles, extremely exciting. And then you put them at the top of a big card. I think it's a recipe for a fun matchup, especially at that weight class as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've hit the nail on the head when you speak about Yuri and his randomness almost. As opposed to the clean striking of Alex Pereira. For me, I've got Alex winning, and I've got Alex winning early this time. I've got him winning in the first round. Just because I think that Alex is able to pick off patterns, and he's been in there with Yuri for a couple of rounds now. I think that, I know, like we're saying, Yuri is random, and he's got the potential to throw up anything. but I think Alex will see it all, and I think Alex will, working behind that low kick in particular. I think it will open up his hands a little bit, and I think he'll get him out of there. But any chance this fight goes to the ground, because I've seen Alex Pereira working on that judo throw, and I'm like, oh, maybe there's talk about his ground game improving. Maybe we'll see that.
I think Alex has a very underrated ground game, and I'm not saying that from a perspective of he's going to look to take it to the ground and start twisting people up. I don't think that's going to happen. But what I think he does very well is enables his striking. So what I mean by that is every time we've seen him taken down, we've seen him do one of two things. Number one, stay safe. He never gets in too much danger of submissions. And you have to think about the people that he's been training with and been under the tutelage of, like Glover. You're going to get so many high-level repetitions and looks. So number one, he stays safe. But number two, a detail to his grappling, which we see a lot now at the highest level. And I think the best person that does this is Leon Edwards, but it's the wrist control in the grappling exchanges. And if you watch when Alex gets taken down, he always works back to the cage or tries to get close to the cage to work his way back to his feet. But he also really does a good job at controlling the wrists. And I think that's especially a big detail on someone like Yuri, because Yuri's not necessarily trying to meticulously set up submissions. He's trying to land offensive ground and pound and then find a submission or a finish. So there's going to be opportunities for Alex to get back to his feet, right? So I understand the narrative of the grappling, but I don't think it's going to be a factor. I think what you said is interesting, right? In regards to the patterns, because I think you're right. I think that's what Alex does. Not only does he set his own tempo and find his own patterns, but he picks up on other people so well. And that's just the level of kickboxing that he has. And a detail that I broke down yesterday was something Alex nearly exposed in the first one was the high kick. Because what you'll see with Yuri is, especially out the southpaw stance, he level changes a lot. And what started happening in the first one as well was because Alex was landing so many calf kicks, he started reaching for the kick as well. So not only does he level change, but he's reaching. And I've seen this week Alex Pereira just drilling head kicks. And I think where Yuri does his best work is when he's in the pocket, when he crashes in. So Alex is going to want this at a kickboxing range. So I think if he can use more of his kicks and occupy the hands and occupy that distance, I think he's going to be able to keep Yuri at bay and potentially catch him just changing levels. Similar to a Dominic Cruz against Chito Vera, but maybe not quite as extreme as that, but just finding that sort of tempo,
That's an interesting pickup. Because you're right, I've seen he has been drilling the head kicks. So I think that's a good look. Is that your bold prediction? Because last time we had Mystic Mac over here. So is that your one for this card?
I think I messaged you every day. Make sure that goes online. All right. We need people to see this. We can't just let that slip off into the archives. That needs to go and needs to make the rounds. But I definitely think that's a possibility, right? And I don't want to sit on the fence with this matchup, but I think when you look at them, their finish rates, what they're both capable of doing, the people they fought, I genuinely still believe it's a pick 'em. I think it's going to narrowly edge towards Alex. But then if I look at Yuri, if I look at the paths to victory for Yuri, he does his best work when he backs people up against the cage. When he gets his opponents just behind that black line in the octagon and he can square them up against the cage, that's when he does his best work. That's when he uses both of these stances and attacks out of both stances to really close people in out of both exit lanes and then just pin people up against the cage and let things go. And I think I made a breakdown on this yesterday, and I think this is how we see Yuri get it done. I think he can knock out Alex Pereira. I definitely think he can do that.
Oh, he can definitely.
And I think if he does, 100%. I think if he does, if you go back in the first fight, it's a very small detail on the exchange, but just before where Alex gets the knockout, they just clinch up, and you see Alex lets that left hook go. He just lets it fire from the hip, anticipating a shot from Yuri and just lets it fire from the hip. We've seen before Eric Nixick, when they were preparing for Israel, they got the tell of his left chest opening up for that left hook because Israel and Alex, they both like to open up that left chest and throw that left hook, especially when they're against the cage, because it's a big deterrent, especially for Alex because it's so powerful. So what they did with that is as soon as they saw that chest open up, boom, they put a right hand down the middle just to beat the tempo of it. And I think we're going to see a similar thing. I really do, because if you look at Yuri Prochazka versus Volkan Oezdemir, he does the exact same thing. He cuts a harsh 45 angle against the cage. He just waits for Oezdemir to commit on the left hook, and then boom, straight down the pipe, knocks him out. And I just think we're going to see something quite similar with that. I don't think he's going to get into the pocket and exchange for extended periods of time. I think he's going to get in, do his work, come back out, draw out the feints and the attacks, and then boom, then re-enter. So I think he could knock him out in quite a devastating way with a right hand, to be honest.
Yeah, this fight is one that, like you said, could go anywhere. It's a really good fight. I think that fans are going to be in for a good one there. I've seen Yuri this week speak about the Amazonian judge almost. He's like, listen, don't go and do none of your witchcraft. And I've always said that Pereira, that Amazonian tribesman stuff, it defeats everything else. That's like historic. Do you know what I'm saying? And we've almost got the Amazonian tribesman versus the samurai. Some of the best artwork, fan artwork that I've seen in MMA has come out this week. But those two personalities and personas, it's going to be a great mix, man. It's going to be a great card. I'm really looking forward to that fight. Let's move on to another fight that I'm really also looking forward to. Actually, I think the fight that probably takes on fight of the night, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. What fight? I don't even know what to say about this one. What do you think is going to happen? Because this one could go anywhere. Literally, I mean, we just said that one could go anywhere, grappling, striking exchanges. This one is going to be an absolute barn. Like, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. What do you think is going to happen?
In my mind, I wanted to come to the table with both sets of paths to victory, paint a picture, but I don't like doing that now. I like to just come bold. Yeah, that's too routine. Let's just go bold, and let me tell you how I think it's going. Forget that. How it's going to play out, and then we'll see if I'm drastically correct or drastically wrong. The last time that we had a conversation, UFC 300, it was Sadiq Youssef and Diego Lopez. And the same thing that I said with that breakdown is a very similar narrative that I'm going to use with this. I just think Diego Lopez has too much horsepower. Very simply, I just think he has too much horsepower for someone like Brian Ortega. This is a 3-round fight. If it was 5, I would have different questions, but this is a 3-round fight. And I know that Diego Lopez can push a hard 15 minutes because I've seen him do it on short notice against Movsar Evloev in a seriously high-paced fight. So he's always getting prepared now. He's got a good enough preparation for this fight. I think he's going to be in very good shape. I think he's going to walk across the cage against Brian Ortega. I think he's going to feel very little threat in the striking exchanges. I think they're going to butt heads in the middle of the octagon. And I think Brian Ortega is going to be happy to be in the clinch because he has grappling opportunities there. We've seen him jump on guillotines. He can create nothing. He can create something out of nothing, But we've also seen him with his boxing in the clinch before with the uppercuts and things of that nature, elbows. So he's got a lot of weapons there. So I think he's going to feel confident there. Diego Lopez is going to feel equally confident. And I think if they start getting into that sort of territory, I just think it's going to be the power of Diego Lopez, which is going to be the separator. And it's very hard to look at this fight and say that Brian Ortega is going to get knocked out because his conditioning's always been so good. But can I see a world in where he buzzes him or stumbles him and just jumps on a submission? I can see that. I can see that. And I know that's not going to be a popular narrative.
That's the way I see it.
Because of Ortega's the grappler, right?
That's the way I see it going. For me, I've got Brian T-City Ortega, man. I think he's just going to be... I think the maturity and the experience comes into play a little bit as well in this fight. And I think you're right, over 3 rounds, I think it definitely favors Diego. But if they do get into that clinch, I was going to say the uppercuts from Brian Ortega in that clinch have looked really good lately. His boxing is obviously improved and it's looked great in more recent fights since the return. but also that grappling advantage. I don't know if anyone. I can't think of many guys, and we were saying this in the cave the other day. I don't know how many guys have got better jiu-jitsu than Brian T. City Ortega, man, in MMA right now. You know, there's a few, you know, but there's not many.
The thing that makes it so dangerous is not even just necessarily how high level it is, because you see a lot of high level guys, maybe not to that level. It's just how opportunistic it is. He just needs such a fraction of an opportunity, and then boom, he's straight on a guillotine or he's straight on a triangle, and he just needs such a small fraction of hope. And that's where I think it's dangerous for Diego Lopez, because he is chaotic, he is powerful, he is fast paced, but with that just comes slight lapses of judgment, and that's all Brian Ortega needs. However, I do think if Diego Lopez just goes out there and blows his load, maybe in the first or second, Brian Ortega's that guy to just pull himself to the third round, you know, and then boom, he's fresh and ready to go again. It's kind of incredible how he does that, and it's shout out to his conditioning. I just think over 3 rounds, I think there's going to be more power in the engine of Diego Lopez, and I just think he's going to be able to do more damage. You look at Brian Ortega, and he's not very fast twitch, you know, especially on the feet, not super dynamic. And I just think that's where Lopez is going to have the edge. But you're not crazy to think that Brian Ortega will get this done. You know, the last thing I'll say on this, his last performance did not fill me with confidence, to be perfectly honest. It got an impressive stoppage for sure. And he did hurt his ankle in the build up to it, which was kind of bizarre. But I didn't watch that and think, same. I didn't watch that and think, no disrespect, he's made crazy adjustments to his game. And it's not that he necessarily needs to, because he's so high level, but there's definitely some things you'd look to maybe work around, right? And it doesn't, I don't know. I'm going Diego Lopez, and I'm going to say that he gets it done just on the scorecards.
On the scorecards. So I think it's a slugfest.
It's going to be hard to stop him, you know?
It's going to be, I think either guy is going to be hard to stop. For me, like I said, I think the submission threat and the opportune grappling that Brian T. City shows and has shown, I think that will be there. But the power advantage that Diego Lopez has, for sure, if that comes into play, then we're in for an exciting night for sure. Let's move further down then. So we've got next fight on the card is Anthony Smith versus Roman Delit. Delit coming off a performance where he didn't, a bit of a lackluster performance, not great against Imavov. Anthony Smith obviously coming off a great performance with the first round submission. My thing with Anthony Smith is his career looks like this: 2 great performances, 2 bad performances, 2 great performances, 1 bad performance. How do you think this one goes down?
It's interesting, right? Because Roman Delit fighting at 205 for the first time. So there's questions there that we don't even have the answers to, right? So that's a whole interesting thing in itself. Now, although it's semi-short notice for Anthony Smith, he was preparing with Jamal Hill. So there was some level of readiness there. He has just come off the back of a win. I think it's a really good moment for him, to be honest. I don't think Anthony Smith gets any benefit of having a 10-week fight camp, really. I think, of course, there are going to be pros to it, but I think where he's at in his career, his age, fight years, I think relatively short notice, good momentum off the last fight. I think keep the ball rolling. So I think it's a smart move. I think on the feet is quite interesting because neither one of them is super polished. I think Anthony probably just has more in his arsenal when it comes to that crafty veteran striking, where he's just going to know a few tricks of the trades just to swing things in his favor. I don't think he's necessarily head and shoulders above the level of Roman Delit. But Roman Delit is an interesting grappler, and that's where Anthony Smith will always favor himself against anyone. And we've seen Roman roll for legs and things like that. We've seen him with submissions there. Dangerous guy to do that against. You're going to be hard to get in sort of leg entanglements with Anthony Smith, because if you're in a tricky spot, you may find yourself getting 4 or 5 heavy shots to the face. If you're just playing with legs.
Leg game, man, in MMA.
At 205, it just takes one big wind up. And especially when your head's against the canvas, right? Because now you've got a framing point. So now the impact is just doubled up. So when you're rolling for legs at those sort of weights, it's always risky. But I think Anthony's just going to have enough across 15 minutes to edge this out any way it goes. I think if it goes to the grappling, he'll do enough to get safe. And I think he'll even be able to submit him with a rear naked choke in the second.
Yeah.
That's how I see this fight going, to be honest. I think he's going to get a submission off the back.
It's interesting. So in the cave, my prediction was Anthony Smith by rear naked choke in the second round. So you've kind of just reaffirmed that one for me. So I'm hoping I've got the points in the bank there. But yeah, I think Delit at 205 is an interesting thing for sure, because at 185 there was a little time period where he looked like he was going to go on and do wonderful things, and it kind of came crashing down quite quickly after that. But at 205, I want to see if the power in his hands stays there. I think he might even have more power at 205 if he's well hydrated and stuff. And the gas tank issue probably won't be there as much. I think last fight he seemed to gas out a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see if that's still there. But yeah, Anthony Smith is a good fight to see exactly where he's at 205. You know, first fight at 205. I think Anthony Smith is going to welcome him with open arms to the division. And it would be nice for Anthony Smith in his career, if he does get the win, to have a big fight next. You know, he's not one that's he fought for but should have been the champion really, because he could have stayed down and won the belt that way. And didn't. But it'd be nice for his long career if he has another fight for the title in time, you know. And probably not a lot of people want to see that, but I would, just because I think the nostalgic purposes.
People aren't going to like this, but the truth of the matter is as follows. Anthony Smith is 1.5 big wins away from a title shot. He's 1.5 big wins away. Now, people won't like that, and they won't like to hear that, and they will say that that's craziness, but they're not paying enough attention, because you have to look at a few things. Number one, the name value. Okay, cool, he's got that. One of the most experienced, one of the biggest names in that division. Number two, momentum. Okay, cool, we've just got a big win over a big prospect. Third, is he doing anyone a favor? Yeah, he's doing the UFC a massive favor. So they owe him one, basically. Exactly, right? So they have a couple of IOUs for Anthony Smith in their back pocket. Fourth of all, have you got a narrative? Yes, we do have a narrative, because there's a big narrative with Alex Pereira. Nothing too crazy, but they've just been chirping back and forth for quite a long time. We've got interviews and tweets about them wanting to do grappling competitions and putting 50K on the line. Glover's fought Anthony Smith. They're friends, but Alex is always taking shots at Anthony. There's enough of a story, right? There's enough of a story. So meritocracy? Possibly not. Business-wise? Quite possibly, right? 1.5 big wins away from a title shot, I'd say, for Anthony Smith.
No, I agree. And I'm looking for, as the third fight on the card, third down, I'm looking forward to that fight. It's a good filler fight, you know. It's definitely going to be a fight that is a good contest overall. Next, we got Bueno Silva versus Chason. I can't say that name. Macy Chason. I'm not good at names.
Chason.
For me, this fight here is. I understand why it's on the main card. But it's one of them fights where the thing is, Bueno Silva, I think she's on decent money in the UFC, and I think they kind of have to put her there. But and I think last time out, Saudi, they didn't have any female fights, did they? So I think they wanted to have a female fight on the main card this time around. And this is on the back of her last performance. I was quite high on Bueno Silva. Then she goes and loses against Pennington, and it's a bit like, well, where'd you go from here? You know. If she probably wins the fight, maybe, who knows? But if she does she get another title shot? Whoever wins, do they get a title shot here? Like, realistically, I don't think we've seen so many holes in her game now. It would be nice if Macy wins, but who knows? What are your thoughts on the fight? We don't have to speak about it for too long.
There's nothing personal on this for either person, but in all honesty,
When you've got Joe Piper,
in French, in French, I don't know, comme ci, comme ça. In Thai, chui chui. Like, I don't know. It's okay. I don't care to see it on a main card. I know that they have rankings, but I don't mean this horribly. It's just the truth. Bueno Silva was very entertaining in her build-up to her title fight. She then goes out. Losing is one thing. Okay, you had a big fight and you lost. It is what it is. Having a big build-up and then gassing out in the third and then just lying on your back, not trying to get to your feet in the fourth and the fifth, it's just...
It was a stinky
And the commentaries talking about that. It's like, am I invested to watch you fight next time? Not really, to be perfectly honest. Just a matter of fact. Would I rather see Cub Swanson there? Yeah. Would I rather see Joe Piper? Yeah. Peyton Talbot? Yeah. But eventually, does it matter? Not really, I guess.
Really. Yeah, we're going to be locked in.
Good.
I mean, we'll see. I was going to say good fight, but I don't know if I want to say that. Let's move on to a fight that is a good fight. Domestic dust-up almost. One that I think I'm the most excited for this fight, which sounds crazy because I'm so excited for the Pereira fight. I'm excited for the Diego Lopez fight. But this fight for me, stylistically, is just an interesting watch. I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting fight on the night, but it also has the potential to be the most exciting fight on the night. That's Ian Machado Gary, should I say, versus Michael Venom Paige. I'm going to ask you for your breakdown before I go. How does this one go for you, man? Stylistically, it's such a good fight.
You just have to be careful what you say, because you say anything against MVP, mate, he's coming for you. He watches intently, so you got to be careful. I've got to keep my head down with these predictions. You know what? When I first saw this matchup, I wasn't that excited about it because in my head, I'm thinking that would be cool for Manchester. It's got Ian Gary on there. It's meant to be a McGregor card. I get it. This could be a bit of a staring match, quite possibly, just with the styles. But as the time goes on, whether you love him or you hate him with Ian Gary, you have to admit there is this chunk of doubt that says he's extremely confident. And you can say he's not like McGregor in any way that you like, and fair enough. I'm not going to argue with that. Everyone always makes comparisons. It's just no need. But one thing that he does mimic is the confidence. And no one's beaten him as of yet. So you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's not like he's been fighting scrubs. The Daniel Rodriguez knockout. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum just went a hard 15 with Daniel Rodriguez. That's not an easy guy to finish. You look at the lanky fella. I always get him mixed up with Jeff Neal and Neil Magny. You look at Neil Magny. Tough fight. Very, very tough fight. And we've seen people falter. We've seen Michael Malott, who's a seriously talented guy, not be able to get through that puzzle. So that's another one. Then we see Jeff Neal. Extremely tricky fight. Very dangerous. And whilst it's not the most exciting to watch, very high level performance, very high level IQ.
I know he got stopped, but he gave Shavkat a few problems, Jeff Neal. You know, so that shows the level.
Brother, nearly knocked him out about 10 times. Like that was a flipping close fight. You go back and watch it. It says submission, and you think, oh, he's just beat him again. No. That fight was very competitive. And whilst the Ian Gary one was competitive, it wasn't that close a lot of the times. And I know it wasn't the most fun to watch, but again, I'm not watching this from some emotional fan. Is he getting crazy knockouts? I'm thinking as an actual contender in a career in the high level world of mixed martial arts, how does this man do? And so far, he's done pretty bloody well. So you have that on one side where everything he said so far, he's executing on. So I have every sort of inclination to believe him. And then on the flip side, MVP's never looked so good. That performance against Kevin Holland,
my goodness,
was phenomenal. And there was a lot of backlash online about how he looked, how he didn't look, what he should have done, what he didn't do. People are forgetting Kevin Holland is not a guy to make look it. Who's the last person to make Kevin Holland look easy? Hamzat Chimaev, and that was on 24 hours notice. You
When he
know,
was who
it's
was he
like
supposed to fight that night? Kevin Holland. I can't remember now.
Kevin Holland was supposed to fight Li Jingliang.
Yeah. I mean, stylistically, it's a completely different matchup when you go in there with Hamzat.
It's not even the same conversation, right? So you look at what MVP done on his debut, the biggest lights, one of the biggest cards, 299 was the second biggest card of the year so far. A lot of attention on that. To come and do that on your debut with all the brand that you already have, all the leverage you already have, all the attention, all the eyeballs, seriously impressive. So his confidence is at an all-time high. And when he sits there and tells me, until you've got into the octagon with me, you've never faced me. And I get that. I get what he's getting at. It's a look that no one's going to be able to provide. And it's basically the veteran who is an incredibly grizzled competitor, lifelong competitor against this young whippersnapper who's never been beaten, who's just talking all sorts of outlandish chat. Who the hell knows what this looks like? Who the hell knows?
I think both of them fight in a similar way. It's not the same, but it's similar. They like to fight on the outside. They like to move around a lot. They like to come in and have these little flurries. I think MVP definitely has the power advantage from what I imagine. But Ian Gary, I think, just as you said, the young whippersnapper, I like that description of him, man. I think youth prevails for me in this fight. And that's not because I don't like MVP. I think MVP probably thinks I hate him because I've said some horrible things about him. I was live there for the Storley fight where he laid on the ground for 5 rounds, and it was difficult to say anything nice about MVP after that. But he had a great performance against MVP, and in a striking match, which this one will be, it's going to be really exciting to see how it goes. Like I said, for me, this is the fight that I'm most excited for on the card. Purely because who the hell knows where it's going to go. If it goes on the ground, which I very much doubt it will do, but if it does, I give Ian Gary the advantage. Even though we've heard a few questionable things about his grappling. He's over there training with Charles Oliveira at the moment, and I wonder if that experience will help him out in this fight. But yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to the fight.
I definitely think there's a quiet narrative of Ian Gary possibly leaning on his grappling. And I understand why. There's an obvious narrative, right? But I think the truth of it is when he's out there, and I'm just speculating here, I don't know, of course, but when he's out in shooter box, I don't think that he's going to be grinding his offensive wrestling every day. I think he'll be doing a lot of grappling, a lot of jiu-jitsu. I think his guard will be nasty. I think he's got the right frame for that as well. Very long legs, very tricky, very quick. Reminds me of sort of like a Sean O'Malley. How I can imagine when I watch him on the mats, I can imagine quite similar, quite tricky. But I don't think he's necessarily going to have the wrestling to get it to there. And it's one thing. It's the one thing even having the wrestling. It's another thing trying to find someone like MVP to take down. Everyone says to O'Malley, just take him down. Yeah, good luck. He's moving laterally. He's floating backwards. He's moving out of both stances. It's almost impossible. But it's like what you said, that just the difficult thing with this is you have MVP on one side that likes to blitz and jump in and then jump out and use that wide stance to sort of bait people into that front leg to tear that up and then do work off the back of that, then get his timing off of that. And then on the flip side, you've got Ian Gary, someone who maybe likes to stand on the outside a little bit more and sort of just pick from a more of a kickboxing rack. Flipping, who knows? I honestly don't have a clue. I've got to give a prediction though, surely.
Yeah, give one. Go on.
I sometimes have this thing with some prospects, not all, just some. And I just give them the benefit of the doubt until I've at least seen them lose. And every single time I've seen Ian Gary make the correct adjustments, either coming into fights or in fights, to just get the win. And I don't know if he's better than MVP, but he's a very, very good competitor. And I'm just interested to see that. I think he's going to scrape a win, Ian Gary. I'm going to give him 2 rounds to 1.
Decision. I think that's what I went with in the cave as well. Yeah. It's another just quick point as well. Him coming in against someone who's same size, if not bigger than him. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with Ian Gary as well. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Let's move away from this card. So I know we've got some fights on the undercard, but let's not bother getting into the undercard because we'll be here all day. UFC Manchester, back in our home of England. Top of the card. Let's just have a little discussion around a couple fights on this card. Leon Rocky Edwards versus, remember the name, Bully B, Belal Muhammad. A lot of people hate Belal. I don't quite understand the hate for Belal, I'll be honest. I'm a fan of his, and I always get a lot of hate online for that. Do you think I think I saw MVP actually breaking this fight down? He was asked about it at the press conference this morning, or last night, should I say? And I think he said that Bully B and Rocky, they both like to fight at a slow pace, and that will favor Belal. But late on, he thinks that Rocky's striking will come into play. I think it's a really good breakdown, actually. What do you think happens in that fight?
I think that's pretty flipping accurate, to be perfectly honest, because I think at least in the first, say, 15 minutes, I think Belal's striking has definitely improved. I think his MMA has definitely improved. I think everything has improved. That's why he is where he is. That's why he's gone on the win streak that he has. But if he is to mix in his grappling and his takedowns and his striking, Leon's so good defensively at getting back to his feet. I can't see a world in where Belal's controlling him on the mat or submitting him on the mat. I can't see that. Personally, I just can't see it. So therefore, to me, it then goes back to standing. That's going to be a difficult pace, a very difficult pace for anyone. But even though Belal's got incredible conditioning, difficult pace, the only reason I say that is not because he can't keep it, just because now when it is the 20th minute, it is the 21st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, it's getting late into the fight. That sharpness with the striking is just going to be a little bit lagging. It's not going to be quite as refined as it was at the start. And that's very dangerous against a guy like Leon, who is so calculated, is so sharp. Exactly. And he has that in the arsenal. And I don't care who you are. When you're facing him, you have to respect that because you know up until the last second, he has that capability. And I think that's the difference in this fight when I look at it. I think Belal can be a problem for anyone, including Leon. But I just look at this matchup and I think, okay, what are Belal's paths to victory? I think if I'm just looking at a fight over 10 times, if this plays out 10 times, I have to favor the skill sets of Leon. I just do. I don't see the paths to victory for Belal. Is he going to stand on the feet and outstrike him? I struggle to see that. Is he going to be able to mix in grappling and land ground and pound, then get back to the... I struggle to see that for extended periods of time. And I just think everything Belal does well, I think Leon does it just a touch better, if not quite a bit better in a lot of departments. That's how I see this one going. But the last thing I'll say on it, it's been a long time coming. And the same way that it was destiny for Leon Edwards, this man's been on a hell of a streak. He's been calling his shot forever. He's got everything going against him in this fight. It's just the right scenario built in a way for him to go and snatch the gold and just become the most viral sensation you could possibly imagine. Love him or hate him, people don't understand unless you do these things for a living and run the metrics behind it. He brings attention. He brings attention, a lot of it. And if he wins the title, the world will go crazy.
I tell you what, for story-wise, if a Palestinian holds that belt, the world, it really will be crazy. It really will go crazy. But that's Belal Muhammad, man. I think he has waited so long for the shot. The sad thing is that he's at a point now where he's over the 35 mark, and there's that statistic which I always love. Over 35s in fights, welterweight and below, never win unless they're named Tyron Woodley. So we'll see. I don't think he wins, even though I would love him to. And that's not because I don't like Leon. Like a lot of people think I don't like Leon for some reason. that's not the case. It's just because I love Belal. Another fight, the rematch. Big Tommy Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. The first one obviously ended in a drastic fashion very early on. We saw Tom out for a little while as a result of it. I've always said this fight stylistically at heavyweight is probably the hardest matchup for Tom because Curtis Blades' wrestling is good and he has improved in the stand-up. How do you think that this is going to be? Obviously, we're not hoping for another repeat of what happened, but do you think that this is a big test for Tom, and do you think Tom can get through it?
I think you're right in regards to this is his toughest stylistic matchup, at least outside of the champion. I think you're right there. He's also said the same thing, so he seems to believe that. And I think on paper that makes sense. I think especially at the heavier weight classes, if you have someone that has a strict wrestling pedigree, they always have an advantage because that's usually at a deficit in the heavier weight classes. But I just look at this matchup, and on one hand, it's heavyweight MMA. So that's always something you have to preface because you're putting 4 ounces on 260-pound men and telling them to punch each other. There could very well be a knockout either side, could be an injury, someone could fall awkwardly. That's all on the table, of course. But if I just put on my logical hat and look at this in regards to paths to victory, let me flip this back to you. How does Curtis Blades beat Tom Aspinall?
The only way I see that happening is like a standing hammer fist. Because Curtis Blades is throwing these weird strikes lately. No, I think Curtis Blades can do it standing. He's definitely got the power. But you're right. Tom has definitely got more paths to victory. I think he could sub Curtis Blades. He could knock him out for sure. I just, like you said earlier, the wrestling advantage at heavyweight is strange. It's unique, and I think Curtis Blades offers that. But like Tom does have the jiu-jitsu. He does have the wrestling. He's got the boxing, and he definitely has the cleaner boxing. So I do think it favors Tom. I just think that Curtis Blades has been on such a good run lately. I think his confidence is there. And if it doesn't happen now for him, it's never going to happen, is it?
Has he, though?
Well, he beat Joughton. Who did he beat before that? Was it the Tom Aspinall fight before that?
It's Pavlovich, right?
Pavlovich. Oh, yeah, he got beat up by Pavlovich. That's a good point.
So you look at that fight. I think that's a good one to look at, right? Because a lot of people said, why didn't he wrestle in that fight? He tried to. He just couldn't get the hit. He just couldn't get into the hips. He did try. He just couldn't get there. And then I think it mixed with the added confidence he's had in his hands. And then he started trading. And then things started going downhill. I think the narrative coming into this fight is going to be around the wrestling. I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, to be honest, for Tom. I think if anyone gets taken down, it's going to be Curtis Blades. And for as good as a wrestler as he is, how many times does a 270-pound heavyweight spend on his back when you're a dominant wrestler?
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. You can't get training room. There's no training rooms, apart from Tom Aspinall's is one of the very few where you're going to have that many heavy guys and you're going to have people to put you in those positions. It just doesn't happen a lot. So I think if we see anyone wrestle, I think it's going to be Tom. The one thing I didn't like from their first fight, and maybe this was somewhat to do with the injury, maybe this was somewhat to do with the event, I'm not too sure. I feel like Tom just rushed the start. You watch how he closes the distance right at the start. He just runs in with a big knee.
Yeah.
Runs in with a big knee, and then they're just in this hectic exchange. And whilst he stayed safe, the risk to reward, I didn't like that. I think the layers to his striking is just well beyond Curtis Blades. So I think if he can, I think the perfect game plan against Curtis Blades is going to be exactly what he did with Volkov. Entertain it on the feet, just get into some sort of striking exchanges, just so you can find the timing. And then, boom, level change straight under that. And then you're into the world of jiu-jitsu at heavyweight, which is completely different. And I think he submits him if he doesn't finish him with elbows via ground and pound. Probably in the late first round.
Yeah, first round. Yeah, to be honest with you, I think it is a fight that doesn't go too long. It's a heavyweight fight. They rarely go the distance. It won't go 5 rounds. Yeah, I can see it being an early stoppage. I'm looking forward to that fight though. That's a really good fight. One more fight I want to speak about, and not so much a fight, more just a fighter, is and it's not Paddy. I want to speak about Mokaev because that flyweight division is kind of heating up. We had Tyra with what a performance that was the other night, and we kind of speculated that fight would be great. Battle of the young people in Mokaev versus Tyra at some point. How do you think Mokaev is going to do in his fight? And do you think that who do you think will get the title shot first between those two?
Obviously, they have to win.
Yeah.
From that, just put it out.
They do have to win.
People are always quick to make sure I'm corrected. So just so I'm on the right path, they have to win first and foremost.
It's a cool place, man.
It really is. I just looked to the left and I'm on a live stream and I've seen a couple of funny comments. Okay, that one's you're all over my FYP. Well, that's good. We're doing something correct. Okay, how do I see this one going? Honestly, people love Manel Cap. Love Manel Cap. And he's a good fighter. But sometimes I get these people where I feel like there's this disconnect from what they've actually done to the love that they receive online. And I definitely feel like Manel Cap is possibly one of them people. Yeah. Very talented. Every potential to go and win a belt for sure.
Just can't make weight.
Can't make weight. A lot of fights fell through, not always his fault. Yeah. Had some fights which were relatively lackluster and overweight and nothing too... I don't get too excited about him personally. Very talented. I think Mohammed Mokaev, the thing that's so interesting about this fighter is there are some people who just have this different level of competition. And Mohammed Mokaev has not only never lost in professional MMA, he's never lost, period. In amateur MMA, in professional MMA, he's never lost. He went 23-0, I think, in the amateurs, fighting at the highest level. The IMAFs is the highest level of amateur MMA, right? And I just go back and watch his fights. And even when he's in tough spots, even when he's losing, he always just has this inability to lose. Yeah. He just doesn't even know what that looks like. I can't comprehend that. How do I lose? I don't know. It's like John Jones almost.
What's crazy with Mokaev is I've heard so many stories about him in the gym not being one that competes in the gym. But when it comes to the lights and when the lights turn on, he's just an animal, man. You're right. I mean, I go back to that fight where he's deep in a leg lock. The knee looks like it's about to pop out the other way. Still comes out of it and gets. I think he got the submission in that fight. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I like Mokaev. I've always liked Mokaev. He's a fun performer. But that Manuel Cape fight is going to be a good one. It's a good test for him to see exactly where he's at. Because Manuel Cape, for all of the negatives that he has in terms of missing weight, he does pack power at flyweight, and I think that it's a good test for him. And for like you said, I don't understand it really, but the UFC do seem to want to push him a little bit. So maybe he does move the needle in certain places in the world. But him versus Tyra, for me, I don't want to see it just yet. I want to see it for the belt at some point. They're going to have to meet at some point. You know, they're both too young to never compete against each other. But that fight there, I think, is going to be one of the best. When that fight is eventually made, if and when, for me, that's going to be one of the best fights of the year whenever that is made. Just because stylistically, they're both so good, man.
And that's the thing at flyweight now as well. It's getting kind of hectic because you've got the likes of Steve Ercik, Amir Albazi, you've got Tatsuro Taira, you've got Mohammed Mokaev, Manel Cap, Brandon Moreno is still floating around. You've got so many high-level guys. And you've got a division which used to be quite thin, especially at the top. But now you've got a division where anyone in the top 10 could be a champion on any given day, really. So it's quite an exciting quite an exciting division. And you look at the skill level there, it's arguably the highest, you know? So yeah, I'm quite a big fan of flyweight, to be fair.
Yeah, flyweight's definitely heating up, man. Flyweight's definitely heating up, which is a shame because when you go back historically, you've got one of the best fighters that ever lived in DJ. Could you imagine if you took a young DJ and just plumped him into that division? What it would be absolutely mental, man. It's such a shame because realistically, all of these guys came way too late for DJ's career, because otherwise we might be looking at DJ and saying he's the GOAT.
Did they?
Maybe they didn't for DJ. You're right, but I still.
That's
I mean,
my question.
DJ,
did they
bet against DJ? I wouldn't bet against a prime DJ. I just wouldn't. I couldn't.
I honestly think he beats a lot of the top guys. Now, I don't think he could do it 125. I just don't know if he could make those weight cuts anymore, or at least he wouldn't want to, nor would he have any interest in really coming back to the UFC and having these fights. So I guess it's an irrelevant convo. Yeah. But he flipping looked sharp on the mats. He looked sharp in ONE FC in the bantamweight title. So flipping, he's evergreen, and he's an absolute beast. I like watching his podcast and his breakdowns. He's got a very good mind and eye for the sport.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, cool. You just mentioned one championship. You're over in Asia right now. Let's break down your life at the moment. So give it a couple of minutes. You know, how are you getting on over there, man? Because last time we spoke about the foodies. You know, I've seen your episode with Kaz Crosley. That was big. What else have you got planned over at the moment?
I'm trying to think last time I saw you. So that was UFC 300. So that would have been April. Is it April?
I think it was April. Yeah, it was the day before 300. So
yeah, a couple of months ago. Yeah, closing into the end of my trip now. So like I said earlier, it's just been, to be perfectly honest, I've just been mainly just at the desk, nothing too exciting, because I've got so much coming up this next few weeks. I won't say exactly what I'm going to do as of yet. I'll let you use your imagination, but it's not 100% inked in. But next week, I will be going over to Japan to do some filming and some work with a couple of people. So I'll be going to Japan to do some work, and then straight from Japan to Vietnam, and then straight from Vietnam back to London for the Cage Warriors card in London to work that. And then straight to UFC Manchester just a few days later to go and get stuck in, and I'll be there all week as well. So really, this last couple of months, to be perfectly honest, just been getting things in place for different projects I've had, different clothing pieces that I've been doing, and different pieces of work with other people that I've just been trying to all bring together and marry at the same time. So a lot of different components. So yeah, just balancing the logistics. I guess I said it a lot without saying anything really, but it's more so because I've just not been necessarily doing a lot of different exciting things in a day-to-day whilst I've been out here, but it's more so just planning for what's coming next, if that makes sense.
I know you said that you've not been doing too many exciting things. I think I recently saw you working with Volk. How did that all come about? How did that go down?
Yeah. Yeah. True.
You know, that's just a normal day in life, you know.
Sure. Yeah, that's you know what? Honestly, my memory at the moment, because I'm thinking of so many things in the future, I keep forgetting things that have happened, and I just move past them so quickly. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So
that's the best way to be.
Oh, for sure. There's a pros and cons to it, right? Because my mind's always just thinking, what's next? But especially when you're by yourself for the most part, what happens is you don't have people to necessarily share these experiences with. So they diminish quite quickly in your mind, and you sort of forget about these things even happen. So until you said that, I just forgotten that, I had met up with Volk, and that was good. So yeah, I'll get into that for sure. Thanks for asking. But long story short, I got a follow from him on Instagram. And then, as luck would have it, just a couple of days later, or a few days later, I saw the announcement that he will be at Bangtao, which is a gym that he part owns.
Yeah.
And he's going to be doing some seminars there. And I'm in Bangkok at this point. And obviously he's from Australia. And I've actually been to Australia before to go and do some work with him, but he wasn't there. So I went to his gym, but he actually wasn't there. So I thought, okay, if he's this close this time, I'm definitely going to just hop on a flight. So
We've got
hopped on a
lucky.
flight from Bangkok to Phuket, but I wanted to create something. I wanted to have some sort of valuable interaction. So I sent him this message 2 years ago, basically to the day, essentially 24 months to the day. And I said to him, just reaching out, Volk, one of my favorite fighters for a multitude of reasons, not just because he's a good fighter, but I like his mindset for things. And then just on a personal level, he likes a lot of things I like: cooking, traveling. I'm a big fan of Australia. So a lot of connections there. So I said to him, in 2 years' time, Volk, we'll be working together when I've built my brand to a place where it makes sense for us to do so. And I remembered that message and I thought, okay, cool, right. Let me try and do some food fighter inspired things. So what I did is I worked with an artist and we put together a graphic that I got printed and designed on a t-shirt, which was basically a Cooking for Volk inspired design. And I did a collaboration with my series, which is Food Fighters, and then Cooking with Volk. Made the t-shirt, got that printed, flew to Phuket, and then met up and gave that to him. So yeah, that was a really good experience, actually. Got to meet him, got to watch him train a little bit, got to spend a little bit of time, just a little bit more chilled behind the scenes with him. So it was cool to get that one-on-one time for sure. And it was good to finally meet him. And it was also nice to bring what I said 2 years ago into fruition. So yeah, that was fun. Thank you for asking.
I mean, you definitely, like I said, the first time we spoke, we met each other at the very beginning of our journeys. It's really good to see where you're going with yours. And yeah, man, I think it's an inspirational story that you've got. I love the fact that you're over in Thailand and you're just happy to jump on a flight and go to wherever you need to be to go and get the work done. So, you know, from me, keep it up, man, because it's, like I said, it's an inspiration to what. And I'm sure that, you know, there's a lot of people on your TikTok right now who are saying that you're on their pages. We're loving the content, man. We're loving the content. Last question for me then. So UFC Manchester, you're going to be there. You might not be able to speak about it, but I know you've done previous work with Molly and Paddy. Is that something that you'll be looking to do the week ahead of the fight?
Yeah, so UFC Manchester, my plans are as follows. These are my plans. So nothing is quite in concrete yet, but these are my plans. So I will be there for the week. I'll be doing some personal work, some one-to-one personal work with Nathaniel Wood throughout the fight week.
He's got a big fight ahead of him.
I'll be doing big fight, very big fight. So I'll be doing some work with him throughout the week. And then on top of that, I'm going to be doing just a bunch of different things throughout the city. So I'll try and get some sit-down interviews with a few of those guys. I'm just in the process now of reaching out to hopefully get my credentials sorted for the event. So hopefully I'll be able to go in as media, will make things a lot easier. But what I'm actually trying to do at the moment, I'm just sorting the logistics out of it. I'm not sure how it's going to look exactly, but what I want to do is create, this has actually been in the works for quite a little while. So it's not just an idea that just popped into my head. But what I want is some sort of pop-up location on just an afternoon throughout the week. And what I want to do is give away just a ton of Casuals Corner stuff. So I've been working on some clothing pieces. I've been working at the moment just on a UFC Manchester comic.
Oh, you got a comic
giving
book,
out.
Hey, I'm going to need one of those, man.
So we'll have, for sure.
We're going to need one of those for the cave.
So be working on that. Yeah, it will be perfect for that. Yeah, I said I'll get some too, and I definitely will do. So especially when these get these new ones out. So that'll be the UFC Manchester one. So that'll be cool. And then yeah, hopefully bring it all together in some sort of pop-up location where I'll have some snacks. I'll get some food there. I'll get some nice food to give out, and then have some sort of fun, interactive way of giving some things out to people. And then obviously just on the back end of that, creating content on all of it. I'm really just trying to flip and create something, you know, just trying to create a little bit of buzz, a little bit of fun, something a little bit different, and just bring a few worlds in together in the same place, you know. A lot of what we do is all on the internet, and we never get to actually interact with people on a face-to-face. So just trying to bring those people in a real life setting and sort of give something back, which is quite fun. So yeah, that's my plans at the moment for UFC Manchester.
Yeah, man. Well, I think you know, it'll be good to see you back in the country. When you're back, give us a shout because we want to have you in the cave. I think that's overdue. But you know, big up, like I said, man. Keep on inspiring everyone. Keep on doing the good work. I'm looking forward to working with you again in the future. I'm gonna sign out, and we'll do this again soon, hopefully. All right.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. As always, appreciate the kind words and I appreciate the time. And same with you guys as well. Just to flip it back, one last thing is, yeah, we met when we both started on this journey, if you like, and that was a couple of years ago now. And I said to you the same thing I'll say now is the concept's fantastic that you guys have, and the success is inevitable. It's just sticking it out. And one thing that you guys all do fantastically is the consistency and the commitment that you have on all platforms and the discipline that you have with the podcast every week, the post-production every week, the graphics every week. So a lot of work that goes into it. So yeah, keep doing you and the whole team because you guys do a great job. So yeah, keep up.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Tell the people where they can find you before we shut it down.
Casuals Corner MMA on absolutely everything. Casuals Corner, Instagram, TikTok, website, Facebook, you name it, I'm there. Come on, find me. Keep it casual.
Oh yeah, we need to keep it casual. Also, the clothing. Where can they get the clothing at?
Yeah, so at the moment, these are just the prototypes that I'm wearing. So there's nothing too conclusive yet. I don't know if you can get that full thing on the back. Yeah, so these are just the prototypes, everything that I've got on currently.
See the back muscles there. I see that. I see.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Little rear delt action.
Rear delt and tricep action there. I see it.
These are just the prototypes at the moment, but I'm working frantically currently on the live chat to the people now to get these all sent over for Manchester. So I'm going to give out a bunch of these away. So there won't be any to buy for a little while. I will be doing a couple of just very, very small drops with them. And then a couple of the more staple pieces, I'll get some more out. But yeah, you can head over to the website, casualsmedia.co.uk, and you can sign up to the newsletter. And you'll basically be given all the updates for the clothing, and you'll be given a weekly newsletter of everything that's going on. But other than that, just keep your eyes peeled. And if you're in Manchester, come and grab something, or at least come and grab a comic. And yeah, it'll be good to see everyone.
Cool. Thank you very much, Will. Speak with you soon, man. Peace.